All right, well, today we have a wonderful hour here to spend with Cami, who is the owner of the Organizing Experts, owner and CEO, and has created the Impact Organizing Method. She's going to help us kind of figure out navigating, getting more organized in kind of this crazy, year and a half, or I don't even know how far into 2021 we are. I'm sure a lot of you guys feel the same. Just as we kind of navigate this new space, and we will be having 2 sessions with Cami. Our second session is going to be talking about kind of just getting our desk and our workspace is more organized. But today we're going to cover a variety of different topics. There'll be opportunities to ask questions throughout. For now, go ahead and throw those in the chat. At the end, you can raise your hand and ask your own questions. I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Cami. Cami, we're so excited to have you here and just really learn from your expertise in this area.
I hope we have a lot of fun on this chat call webinar. You'll have to forgive me. This is new territory for me, not just 2020 or 2021 for that matter, but wow, like our lives have just been thrown up in the air. I'm sure everybody can relate to that. And so this morning, what I really just want to focus in on and accomplish today is how we can make an impact. Like 2020 was a storm, right? Or maybe we're learning it was a bit of calm before the storm of maybe what 2021 will bring us. And so I hope as we move through the conversation, it feels a bit organic, because this is a vulnerable topic, a vulnerable space for a lot of us. And yes, please reach in the comments and have some fun as I go along here. As I navigate Google Slides also. Here we go, new to the scene. Okay, oh, I just clicked. Okay, we're learning. Okay, so I also just wanted to drop a quick link for you all here. This is my book, my baby, that was 5 years in the works. And many of you had gone to an event previously and had been asking me about it. So here it is, a great offer for all of you. And I'll be sure to take that at the end of the slide as well. So I wanted to talk about what did life look like before 2020? And feel free to comment on this, but I'd like to share what my 2020 as a small business owner looked like. And I'm sure you can relate to parts of this. But 2020 was there were a lot of things going on, a lot of worries I had, or a lot of turbulence happening, right? It's just kind of the norm of what day-to-day was looking like. And then about this time last year, April into March, everything was flipped on its head. And what may have felt like the norm routines, work life, having kiddos, all of that really made an impact on our life. It kind of felt like we were little cockroaches, and all of a sudden the light got shined on us. And we're like, ee, like, oh, everything is now visible that maybe wasn't there before. Just know you're not alone, and everybody is feeling like that. That's appropriate. That's normal. So with all this physical and mental chaos, now we're in 2021, and what does life look like right now? I can tell you from my personal journey going through this pandemic that I went from being single to being engaged to having future stepchildren, never like crossed my mind before, moving, my business closed, and oh my gosh, we didn't know what was going to happen. Organizers go into your home, your very vulnerable private space, and they change it all up. And never has anything been tested more, I feel like, than right now, than this moment that I'm talking to you all from My whole life got turned upside down. And so we're stuck inside, and the pandemic made us focus on what's happening right now. The spotlight is on you in your house. You're doing these Zoom calls, and you're noticing all these things before, probably, that never really called attention to itself before. And, you know, for a lot of people, there are very specific areas in their home that this pandemic has brought out that maybe didn't exist before. So face masks, right? This was not even a thing before, but now we're thinking, oh my gosh, for safety, for my family, for working in this new lifestyle that we have right now in 2021, I need a face mask. And all of a sudden, like, where do I store my face masks? And how do I put them in my car? And now this spotlight has been on certain products and certain ways that we live within our home. 2020 really made me realize that in my personal home, I tidy and I organize all the time. People always ask me, is your home really organized? Yes. And my partner thinks it is horribly annoying when I constantly move everything on him all the time. But I'm constantly looking for that right flow, that right efficiency. And when I find that flow within my environment, everything starts to just function more seamlessly. Like I'm allowed that freedom to create new space from a decluttered physical space, but also just mentally, emotionally, it's that clearing. And something that I never thought in this pandemic either, that just being at home had taken on a whole new meaning and a whole new life. And while it may be challenging that everything is shifting and changing, and you may feel like, I don't even know where to start. Can we just recover for a minute and just focus on what we want to create this year, right? We have a good history of what happened, where we've been. We want to change that. So how do we take a moment and just think about what areas in your life, reflecting on 2020, what areas in your life called the most attention? Again, your car, your kitchen, pantry, really noticing intricacies about other people in your household and their functioning style or lack thereof. And your home work life. I know we're going to be talking about that in a later webinar, but you know, all of a sudden now we're at home and we have to have the Zoom space as carefully curated as possible, so you don't hear John the lawnmower guy or your kiddos running in or your dog barking. We're asked a lot of us to be vulnerable with our spaces. How do we go about that in an organized way? So for today, thinking about all of that, what did that bring up for you? What space has just kind of been highlighted for you in 2021, right? We kind of got through 2020 in our spaces. Maybe it got worse, maybe it got better, but really we can make an impact right now if we just bring some clarity and bring some light to those spaces. So feel free to write in the comments your top 3 spaces that really were important for you in your house to get organized, to get nailed down. I've heard also, you know, your guest bedroom has taken on this whole new meaning. The work out at home. That was a whole thing, trying to get weight sets and get the garage organized. You know, we're doing so many different things, and it's wonderful and great. And maybe you haven't felt that momentum. We're going to also talk about, where do you start? How do you keep that momentum going to make an impact? One thing I won't really talk about are the actual steps of the impact organizing method, because they're really boring. It's like reading, this is my opinion, but it's like reading an instruction manual. There's no zazz. There's no, this is how you do it, which I do explain in the book. And it's there for you if you're someone that likes to check boxes and follow through. You'll love that. But really what impact organizing, the method, is all about is how do you not just organize for that Pinterest perfection? That may be your goal. You want to be Martha Stewart in your home or in your work life. But really, I have maybe 3 hours before my family gets home. And how do I make an impact in those 3 hours? What is the process? And I think we're all searching for that right now. Where do we start? How do we nail down those 3 areas? And then give me a method to tackle it in the short amounts of time that I do have. It was just developed out of really looking back over the last decade, working with my clients in their home, and they don't have a lot of time. They're busy working women professionals who, many of which had children of various different ages. And it really, they're doing all of these things at one time, and they were doing them all at home. And they made the call to say, I need help. I need a system. We need to reevaluate how I'm doing my life, because I know the more efficient that I will be able to serve from that place. I'll be able to serve my family from that place. I'll be able to serve my coworkers from that place. And so it's really about the ripple effect of that clarity of, I want to do this space. I'm going to work this method. Boom, boom, boom. I also love it because it provides instant results. And I'm like millennial cusp, so I want things like Amazon now. Horrible, I know. But in this case, bear with me, it actually works pretty well. So just to go over, okay, you've declared your 3 spaces that really are calling your attention. And if you have done so on a piece of paper or in your mind, like, no, this is the space there. This is the big one for me. Just clear your mind first, and then tackle your space. Tackle that one that you picked. But you have to allow your brain to be in that moment. And so often I find myself multitasking. I feel mentally that I've stretched at 3 places at one time. And so I'll start my day by just giving myself room to think in the morning. This is something I do every morning, is I just allow myself to write down my checklist, my grocery list. It does not have to be beautiful in any way, but just clear your mind out. And then make sure you've selected just one space that you want to try to make an impact in. The project plan part of it is huge. And I think a lot of us miss the planning of things because we live in a world that is, I want it right now. But if just like building anything, if you've ever built anything from IKEA, I've been doing that a lot lately too. But project plan, like the better your instruction booklet and you pull out all the parts, the IKEA really fun parts, and you organize everything and you actually go step by step by little hand figure step of the project plan, your IKEA furniture turns out really great. But don't skip those first two steps. It's a little bit of prep work before any project maximizes your results tremendously. And then why did you pick this space? Again, I know this is a little bit of mental work before you actually start getting into the method of what do I need? What do I do? How do I do it? When do I do it? But this is so important. And I found that with working with clients who did this type of mental prep work, 5-10 minutes max, their results were so spot on with our project plan. And we were able to not only nail that, but exceed those expectations. And so this is part of the process. Why did you pick this space? One space in particular that I can share with you guys that I'm really trying to zhuzh up in my own home. Again, like I said, my personal world got flipped upside down this year. And I got engaged, and we have 2 little ones now running around my house, our house. That's a whole nother thing too. For those of you that have merged households in this pandemic, hang on, it's an experience, but we're going through that too. So many of these different elements and layers, right, at home. So you picked your space. Now, why did you pick that space in your home to make an impact in? For me, we have this cool little nook just right down here. And I wanted a place for the kids to dump their backpacks and put their shoes, and a little desk area to try to set up a area for them to, it intentionally was set up to do homeschool, or the kids are virtual learning, but it turned into a roadblocks station. You can wave your hand emoji if that has happened to you too. But the intention was I wanted a really fun, cozy, chill spot for the kids to go, that maybe was very separate space, because before we were in an apartment and we all had 0 space, and now we have this room, this moment, this space to kind of grow and separate and look at these spaces and say, ooh, what do I want from this space? And why do I want that? I want to come home every day and see a picture of them on the wall right here. I can see it clearly in my mind, right? That's also giving this project life. Why did you pick this space? Feel it, see it as already done, and you'll be better able to communicate that to yourself and to others. I know I'm speeding along here a little bit. If there's any questions or comments, I'm happy to take them at any time. Feel free to interrupt. But 2020, again, the things that made us realize just how important home is, more so than ever. Huge. Again, the light was shown on us and how important our home is and functioning is. I'll share a little story also on this slide. Again, if you've been through a lot this year, if you feel like you're being tested mentally, physically, spiritually, and getting your house in order, you are your home. My fiance just sent me like this really sweet meme about how women are so much stronger because they can take something and make it grow. They can, you give them a house and they'll make it a home, right? And that goes both ways. But the intention is you are your own home physical space, and it is you within your home that is functioning. And the better you feel, again, the more you're able to serve from that place. The story I was going to share with you is I understand how, for many, being at home is a very vulnerable thing. Maybe we haven't had our family over in a long time for whatever reason. We haven't had friends over. We haven't had parties in a long time. And home looks very different to every single person. But what's important to remember is that you can overcome with the process. You can overcome with baby steps, good decisions that multiply. And just having that vision of where you want your space to be is such an important step. And this was tested for me day before yesterday. My grandma calls me. It's about, what time was it? It was about 8 a.m. And she's like, Cami, I'm sorry to wake you up so early. I know you're coming out this afternoon, but there's a leak. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, well, tell me about the leak. Well, the towels are soaked all over the floor and there's a pinhole leak coming out the wall. I'm like, all right, well, give me a minute. I'll be there in an hour. Let's damage control time. Got the car, got organized, got myself put together a little bit, got out the door. Got there on time. And something you may or may not know about me is I'm extremely handy. not by chance, but by choice. And I've been renovating after my grandpa passed away. I've been renovating a 11.5-acre plot of land in Covington that they were hoarding on for many years. So I really do test what I teach as well. So anyway, she calls me yesterday and she's like, Cami, there's this leak. So I get to the farm and I'm trying to take the toilet off. I'm trying to plug the hole. I found it in the wall and I'm like, okay, if I could just hold it this way and tie it this way and then get the toilet off, we can get some water down. Imagine this, right? It's kind of what we feel like in 2020. You're holding all these things in the air. All of a sudden, the hose from the wall disintegrated in my hand and Niagara Falls was coming down on me like in the movies, shooting up over my head. I broke the toilet somehow. I'm crying. I'm praying for it to stop. And meanwhile, my grandmother's house got completely flooded day before yesterday. I was literally holding all the flood water in my hands. And I'm like, you gotta see the silver lining in all of this somehow. And it's being tested. I had to hire my organizers. I was like, I now feel in 2021, thank goodness we're at this place, right? Maybe that is the silver lining. That now I'm understanding how my clients feel. Oh my gosh, this is the most vulnerable space. This is my human. She's 84 years old. She's so sensitive. She's kind of a hoarder. I love her. Like, please just be careful with my grandma. But we have to pack. We have to move this stuff. We have to have a plan. And there's so much to do in such a short amount of time because the water crew is coming on Saturday. And I'm like, okay, here we go, 2021 with a flood. So again, here I am sitting with all of you this morning before I run to the farm and help her. I'm walking into the scene of getting organized, of the middle of the chaos. And I'm going to see what that impact has on my grandma's experience, how she will feel calm, clarity with a plan, that my team and my crew, that my method is spoken well enough that I know the impact is going to be made if I can let go. There's nothing I can do anyway. The water is pouring out of the wall. There's nothing I can do. Sometimes you have to surrender to the process, whether that is bigger than you, laid out before you. There also is that balance of the surrender. And I think that's what makes home so vulnerable. It is the place that we are allowed to surrender. We don't have to put on a show. After a long day, we can come home. And the one thing that I ask for my home is that it comforts me. You're okay. You did good today, kiddo. you can lay down now and rest. So what are your vulnerable spaces? What did 2020 make you realize about your home that is significant, that is important moving forward? Again, I wanted to let you know, I do have some downloads for you, a feedback opportunity for you as well, and also a little bit about this journey in this book. And this is something I was so excited about launching this year. There's a lot of client stories in there as well, all very different and personal. But for me, this was a long time in the making. It took like 5 or 6 years to just spell out what was happening in people's homes. I'm kind of a weirdo. Like, I love going into somebody's home, a vulnerable space, and hearing their vision for that space. That's like the most exciting part about getting organized is the vision you have for this space, then putting it together either in a project plan, in words, and then the steps to make it all happen are very simple, right? Keeping it simple. But I wanted the impact and the outcome to be huge. I wanted this ripple effect to happen. It's like taking a diet pill that you just instantly wake up and you are dressed ready to go and you've lost all this weight. It's like that instant makeover. We love those kind of TV shows. I did. That's how I got started in all of this. I watched an episode of the Oprah Winfrey Show and they had Clean Sweep on there. Peter Walsh. It was a big show at the time in 2008. And it was the home makeover series. And you watch it, you fall in love with it. And you're like, oh, what it was and what it is. Now they have a crew and they have lots of money and they have this huge production. And me watching that, coming from a family that hoarded, I didn't think that was very achievable, affordable, doable. It wasn't realistic, but I knew that I wanted to do this kind of work. And so I do share a little bit about my personal story of how I started in the organizing business, the crazy stories, people I've had the pleasure of having a relationship with, and then growing a business off of this idea. Because once I figured out how to make that ripple, I wanted every single person who read it or who we worked with to feel that result. Because it was real and it was simple. And I'm like, oh, this is how you do it. These are the steps. So that is about all I have to wrap up this talk with you guys today. I know that's kind of short, but I really just wanted to get a quick sense for how you're all feeling from 2020. Everybody's life is so turned upside down or different. And how are you feeling going into 2021? Are you kind of getting some clarity, or are you struggling? This is a check-in. Where are we right now, and where do we want to go? And how do we identify and then make an impact so that it's not just fluffy organizing or making a Pinterest worthy space? It's something that makes an impact. It's something in your kitchen. You're able to cook and enjoy it and create an experience for just yourself, which is awesome, or your whole family. Yeah, so thank you guys so much. And yeah, again, I'm happy to stay and hop on for any Q&A if we have any.
Thank you so much, Cami. It's a great intro for as we answer any questions here. I've been keeping an eye on the chat. You guys are welcome to raise your hands. We have a good half an hour now for anyone who wants to stick around. It just really, organizing is so different person to person. So we figured it'd be good to have a good amount of time for questions, Q&A. They're coming through the chat. There was one I saw earlier that I'm going to go ahead and read out. It says, I don't know how to get my family members on board with being organized. I just can't keep up with them. Do you have any recommendations on this?
Well, I mean, we can't kick them out. That's frowned upon. But that really is the dance, right? How do we get people on board? Sometimes you can't. That is the truth, right? But what I will say is it starts with you. If you start to make these changes and set that standard that, hey, this is a priority for me. This is really important for me. Don't you see this as part of my routine of what I'm doing? Then you can reevaluate some relationships if they're not respecting your internal happiness boundaries of how you operate and how you live in your life. But really, the only thing you have control over is you. So dial it in, get clear for you. That's what I would recommend.
And then another question, it says, can you talk to us about paper clutter? Where do we need to keep? How long should we keep it? Paper is just overwhelming this year. Super overwhelming.
Super overwhelming. I am a paper person. I'm the millennial cusp. So I'm happy to do everything digital, as I've done this Google Slides for you all today. But I write everything down. So how do you keep everything organized? I do have a hybrid of half and half until I can eventually let one go that I'm comfortable with. But that's the thing. What are you most comfortable with? So is it keeping really organized physical copies? Can you do that? Do you have to go digital? Some people don't. And just knowing what to keep and how long to keep it. We actually have a worksheet on our website, which the link is there, that gives you an outline for really important paperwork, what to keep, how to keep it, all of that.
We can work on sending out that link as well. There is a question here that says, controlling where my child leaves their stuff is basically impossible. It talks about you can just find all over the house, different rooms, and it's really hard to set those boundaries. Do you have any recommendations in that area?
Well, I can speak from my new experience with children. This would never have been on my fridge otherwise, but it serves a purpose. We got chore charts. We have a menu because we need a menu in our house of what to eat, right? It's getting everybody on board. It's tough. Fight the good fight. And little by little, you will see some changes. I think with children, it's getting them excited about it. What's in it for them? they're like little mobsters. Like, all right, I'll clean my room. What do I get? So we really do in our house, we make it a thing. We incentivize it, we encourage it, but we also make sure that the house is kept up, and it's hard work, fight the fight.
And another question is about organizing in the kitchen. Do you have favorite organizers to use in the kitchen? Seems like just if you this person keeps reorganizing and is still not satisfied, what methods would you recommend?
It really depends on your space, and there's nothing wrong with the space that you have, whether it's too small, you don't have enough drawers. We never have the perfect space, and those of you that do, that's really amazing. I don't know what that's like either, but I will say what I've noticed in the kitchen that is hugely helpful is having it really pared down, except my essentials that I use every day are now front and center and accessible. And things that I really love that bring me joy, like my in-sync cup, need to go at the front of my cupboard, not the very back. So just reevaluating the flow until it feels right.
Thank you. And just scrolling through, there's a lot of comments, a lot of questions. The most recent one, I think this would be a good one. We've gotten a few different comments, and then I'll go to the one about comparing different organizing methods. But first, how do you get started when you're overwhelmed? A lot of people have been commenting that it's just so overwhelming, not knowing where to start. I think especially, it sounds like everyone's been home for so long, it's piling up, just kind of taking that first step.
Such a good one. For that person that is feeling overwhelmed, I just like to say thanks for acknowledging it and sharing it. It's very valid. We all get to a certain point of that, right? And that is the clutter telling us it's time to focus or think about me. I'm here. And so if you are feeling that sense of just overwhelm, you have no idea where to even start, don't forget you can reach out and ask someone for that clarity. Whether it's a family member, a close personal friend, like, I'm struggling with this and I just need some parameter here. Someone to bounce questions or feedback off of. Or just writing it out. I really think just taking a minute to write out what it is that's bothering you, why it's bothering you, it makes sense to go there, and getting that clarity. And then from those places and conversations, you can pull apart the steps, the how-to. The impact organizing method is literally step one, checkbox, I am doing it this way. A plan to keep you on track, because we get distracted a lot. It's overwhelming. We have a lot. So getting clear mentally and physically is huge, and that overwhelm literally goes away.
All right, so the next question is, it says, I have a hard time deciding what to keep and what to release. I've tried many different organizing methods and they just don't seem to work for me. Can you tell us a little bit about what's different about your method?
From the emotional standpoint, I do touch on this a little bit. I share a story of when my grandfather passed away. He was a character, and he had this urn, which I've known about for most of my life, that this urn was in the garage, and it was this really intricate thing covered in dust. Okay, I know it's there. So when he passed away, again, it was scrambling. Oh my gosh, okay, he's getting cremated. I need to bring the urn to the people to put him in. I know where the urn is. So I go to the garage, I get the urn, and I notice it's like crusty and gross. And again, important to him. This was a thing. Okay, I'm cleaning it. I stick my hand inside and I pull it out. And and there was a chicken foot, petrified chicken foot in his urn. And I share this story in the book. I'm like, of course he would do that. He knew this day would come. He knew it. He pre-planned it. Now, what's one of the most important things I own is this stupid chicken foot, right? It's become a thing that is very important. So for that person that is struggling, I think it's really important to, again, identify what is really important. If this got broken, lost, stolen, how on a scale of 1 to life threatening, or you feel that way, that's how you know it's important. If you're like, I'm having a hard time with it, that's when you can make some choices. But having that extreme of like, absolutely not, absolutely, let's move on, that helps. And it also helps when you're organizing to put those things front and center. All of a sudden, you're being asked to look at maybe, this picture I have on my desk now. I found that picture of my grandma and I. And I'm like, oh my God, I think that's actually like our favorite picture together. And it was buried in a box somewhere. And I found it, rediscovered it while getting organized. Now it's front and center on my desk. So it helps you line up what really sparks joy.
Well, it's definitely makes a difference. Thanks. So the next question is, it takes so much work to figure out how to sell stuff, give it away, or if it's too good for the dump, where do you take it? How do you make that choice? Do you have any advice on best practices for just getting rid of stuff and kind of figuring out where to take it?
Well, I will give everybody an insight on what's really going on right now in this pandemic, in something that we have struggled with as well. We get all this stuff, everybody's ready to let go of it, actually. Now, where does it go? The hard truth, if any of you have waited in a Goodwill line to try to get rid of something, it may have been a long time wrapped around the block, because it's hard to get in the store. It's hard to get out of the store. They're not taking it as many donations. People aren't. That is actually now become a thing. What do we do with our stuff? I want it to go to a good home. And it is a lot of work to post everything. Really making that distinction of, I need this money from this, so I have to sell it. Or, I just I want to get some money from it. If it's just a kind of maybe situation, don't waste all that energy and effort. You're going to exhaust yourself on every little thing you could be selling from your house. So if it's really valuable, really important, then put that effort into it. Everything else you just have to let go. Something our company does is take pride in how they dispose of items. We work with people in the community, Facebook groups. If somebody is in need of something, we've had people reach out to us privately, like, hey, do you have, clothes for a 5-year-old little boy? I know somebody who could really use those clothes. And I'll ask our organizers, like, hey, just putting something out there, we have somebody who's looking for these items, or different. It is challenging. It does require some effort. Partnering with somebody who can help you get rid of the clutter and help you get rid of your items right now is tricky. That is the truth.
And along with some of the recommendations you put, I'm sure everyone can see there's other recommendations in the chat, like Facebook groups, Buy Nothing groups, some the North Transfer Station in Fremont. I've been there before, Anne. All right, I'm keeping an eye on any other questions. Does anyone you can go ahead and raise your hand if you'd like to ask your question out. I'm looking through our chat, lots of comments. It's great to read these comments. I'll make sure and send them to you,
I
Cami.
just found the comment section again. I apologize. I'm a little new to this Zoom space, but I see it now. That's exciting. Yeah. Okay.
And someone also shared, if you want to comment on this too, Cami, that they found it super helpful to have someone who's not emotionally invested in your stuff, who doesn't live with you, come in and kind of help you make the choice of if something means something to you or not, if you are having that hard time deciding if you do have an emotional connection to an item or not.
Yes. And I will say that can work for some people, but if I were to just hire somebody to come into my house, my fiance, again, that would not work in this house. He'd be like, who are they? Where they come from? Did you do a background check? Remember, and then he gets super defensive, like, just don't touch my stuff. Yeah, so yeah, it could work for some people. I know in my household, there are sensitive personalities in my home that you have to be aware of, and you got to learn to dance with them.
All righty. I think I'm going to wait a few more minutes, see if there's any other. Sorry, everyone. I'm not sure if you can hear my dog barking in the background. Here's a question. I'm wondering if you consider the Buddhist idea of impermanence when going through clutter, basically thinking that eventually everything will disintegrate. So why hold on to it so tightly?
I quoted my grandpa in my book, and he was like, well, you can't pack it in a U-Haul with you when you go. It's true. It is true. It is super morbid, and many cultures feel that way. I have personally, like I said, my grandpa passed away several years ago. I was the only child, only grandchild, and they raised me a large portion of my life. And they were hoarders, and I became an organizing expert. Irony. But I can tell you that spending that time getting organized and downsized as much as you possibly can. I would say if you really want to challenge yourself, go to that uncomfortable level. I don't know if you guys have heard about the 21 article wardrobe. Like, start with something small and see, like, okay, can I get this down to this? Maybe you don't get it down to 21, but maybe you get it down to 41. Or for some people, 1 million, because you have 40 billion pairs of clothes or pants, black pants, just reevaluating, downsizing, because that ripple does affect everything long after you're gone as well. So yes, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
I just got a really interesting one from Linda here. It says, we have thousands of books in our home and have run out of bookshelf space. They're in stacks and boxes. I've pared down to almost none, but my husband refuses to let go. He thinks all books are sacred. Help. Sounds like maybe Linda needs a system for where to keep her books.
I love this one so much because I am a book lover. And, there's this saying, and I can't help it. It just came to mind. They say, poor people buy big TVs, rich people have large libraries, right? I'm sure many of you have heard this before. So whatever that talk is in your head about why you have these books, I put value in these books. I like how they look. They're expensive. They're this, they're that. What is that meaning to that individual for the books? Sometimes you ask that individual and they'll be like, I just like books. And that's what it is. So it's really hard to identify why. What is the why behind XYZ? And learning those parameters of, well, we don't need to hoard every single book, do we? Maybe we do, but maybe we don't. And we can pare down the books, because if you've ever moved at all and you had lots of boxes full of books, you get really tired of moving said boxes of books all the time because they're heavy and inconvenient and in the way. So if you can learn again to give it a parameter, even if you're a book hoarder, great. Let's confine it to said area. And usually everybody can come on the same page about that when they know what those parameters are for each other.
All right, and it looks like people are sharing some other strategies as well, recommendations in the chat. All right, well, everyone, it looks like those are all the questions we've gotten so far. Maybe we can give it just a minute here, see if anything else pops up while I'm closing us out. But first and foremost, thanks so much, Cami. We really appreciate just your commentary. I think a lot of people, as they've shared in the chat, really resonate that we're all a little overwhelmed. I think it helps to just have some time here and think, take it back to the beginning, take it back to, what resonates with you, what matters to you, and maybe start from that place with our organization, which for those who are in our organizing group, we've kind of been talking about this theme a lot with not only with our work processes and now home organization. So it seems to kind of be the theme of the year for this group. Again, lots of chat, lots of kudos, a good nudge for our afternoon Jerry shares to kind of just nudge us maybe into this weekend and get some organizing going. So thank you so much, Cami. Thanks for everyone who came and stuck around. And again, I will be sure to share the chat with you. One thing, Cami, it sounded like maybe that link wasn't working, the organizingexperts.com/ the whole U. So for everyone who's still here, I'll connect with Cami, make sure we can email out that proper link to you guys. You can find it on our group webpage. It's already linked there. So if you go to that First 90 webpage, you can click on that and it'll launch the Amazon page for you. And then I'll also send out that paperwork handout, Cami, that you referenced.
Thank you all so much. And thank you for your patience with all this tech and links and all of this business. But we will get it figured out definitely for our March, which is organizing your workspace. And I can't wait to tell you some stories about that.